Okay, I lost the footage of getting it running, so I'll just explain what's going on. I did not have the correct battery box, but I had an old one, was not as rusted. I added a side wall to at least mount the CDI and the starter solenoid back to where they originally should go. It's all hooked up. Replaced this wire, which plugs in the loom down here. Put oil in it, got it started. Smokes like a freight train. Let it run a little longer, see if it would clear up, but all it does is just keep shooting and shooting. I mean, it's about as bad as a fogger going down the road. I mean, just a cloud of white, black smoke. It spits oil out of the exhaust because there's the exhaust leaks everywhere. The front donut where it connects to the cylinder. As you can see, there is oil right here. There is something leaking somewhere back up in here. I cleaned up all this exhaust because the surface rust was just annoying. They tried to weld it on the bottom here somewhere. It isn't sealing. As you can see, there's wet oil back here because it just spits oil out the tailpipe. I let it run probably 20-30 minutes. It seems to lose compression and want to die at idle, so it definitely, probably more than likely, it's either got cylinder head damage, it's leaking through the valve seals, or the top end is done. Okay, got oil in it. I lost the video from before of it running, so I'm going to reshoot now. But I went ahead and took a scrap battery box I had and replaced this wall. This is just temporary until I can find the correct battery box for it. But it's got everything where it should be. Replaced the solenoid. Replaced the starter kill switch. This one's off of, I think, an 86, but still plug and play, just wrong style. It should still work. But I'll get it started up again and let you guys see what it's doing. As you can see, nothing's on. Turn the key on. We got lights. Switch the switch here to the run position, which is all the way down on this one. See, cranks. All right. The old switch, none of that worked. All right. Let's see about getting it started. Let's turn the gas on. And switch. Wants to lose compression at low RPM. And the intake boot is split, So it's just like sitting on top of each other. Every time it backfires, it shoots it off the car. So throttle and idles, not really responsive. That's me pushing the carburetor back in place, and then it idles down here. It was smoking a whole lot worse than that. We get some vice strips on the choke pull here, and if that'll help. Yeah, it's got a slight tap. Might be lifter wise. No, it smoked a whole lot worse than that, guys. It smoked bad. I mean, it's like a fog. That is honestly a lot better. I don't know. It might not need to top in. See if I get some worse. I know it needs an intake boot. Bad. Like I can grab that carburetor and just pull it off. There's nothing left really on the boot. Smoke though. Yeah, the center exhaust donut or whatever that muffler bolts to the shrink pipe to, it's blowed out. There's several holes in that muffler. cat seems to come and go. Yep, there it went. Every time it coughs, it shoots that carburetor a little bit off the boot. That smoke didn't seem as bad as before. Rings might just be a little stuck. Wants to backfire out the carb a little bit because it's sucking too much air. But yeah, that's it running. It doesn't run well. I said this thing's only probably run a little bit on and off for about 30 minutes. But what I was talking about by the carb boot, you see it right there, see it split? I'm gonna move the carb. Yeah. See? That's it off of it. I've got to replace that boot because every time it backfires, it just pops it off there and then it just sucks air. And then the idle gets uncontrollable. So I'll see about ordering that boot. We may go from there. I was pretty sure. Oh, camera don't want to focus here. May have something with the lens here. Come on, focus. Focus. There we go. But yeah. I was reasonably sure I was about to have to pull the engine, but that smoke is not as bad when you rev it. But some of it's white and some of it's black. I can't tell how much of it's one or the other. So I guess the next thing will probably be pulling the carb, putting a new intake boot and everything on it, and then start it again, see if I can get it to idle, maybe run it around a little bit, keep an eye on the oil. But If I have to replace the top end, I have to replace the top end. But I'm also hearing something that sounds like lifter noise, but it could also be exhaust leak. But there's a small pinhole or something up here. That's oil coming out of the exhaust. It's just blowing it out. You got some little specks all over the place. It's dripping out the exhaust. So I've either got cylinder head problems and rings, or they're stuck, or the valve seals might be blown inside the head. It's one or the other. Either way, top end has to come out with if it's either one. Okay, this is an update on the 94 350 ER. Went ahead and pulled the top end. There it is, it's out. You've seen me do it on a couple other videos. Gasket was getting a little weak right here. The seal still looks fine. The wrist pin looks good. Inside the motor looks good. That's not discoloration or anything. That's heat from when they were pushing bearings and stuff in. But that all looks good. Okay. I don't know how well y'all can see it on camera, but right in here, there's not really a groove, but there's a ridge. My nail just now catches it. It's kind of oblong shaped, like the rings were bouncing around. And if you take the piston, turn it over, it's pretty loose all the way around, like it's just worn out. It's not as loose on the bottom. These are supposed to be tapered, but not that much. So I would assume, because of this ridge, just go ahead and replace the cylinder. When we go into the rings, excuse my hands, oil rings, set those off to the side. Alright, you have compression ring and secondary ring. The secondary ring is the bigger of the two, which would be this one. It's usually black. Sometimes they're stamped, sometimes they're not. These, I see something on one, not really on the other. But secondary ring, top ring. Put the top ring in the cylinder. Kind of set the piston on top of it, kind of flatten it out, push it down just a little bit. And you guys see that ring gap right there? That is way too much. For comparison, here's a pick. Pick don't even touch either side. It's about twice as thick as this pick. Little screwdriver fits in between them, no problem. Don't even touch. And we're talking about something that should have the gap of like a business card. So these rings are severely worn out. Same thing with the secondary ring. Put that in there until it flushes. Secondary ring's not as bad, but it ain't good either. Still same thing, pick. Fit in there. I don't think I can quite squeeze the screwdriver tip head in there, but still should be the you know, thickness of it like a business card, like 16th thou, something like that. Either way, it's too much. So, rings need. The piston don't look bad. A little clean up. You can tell it's been these black, all this black. The oil has been getting up past it. But this would probably clean up. You probably reuse this, but usually the kits come with a piston. So, jug, piston, rings. Head. Again, I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see. There, you're not. Of course not. Do I got a flashlight in here? Probably not. Oh, shit. You see that line coming off that valve right there? Where it's the darker black? That is oil drip coming right out of that valve seal. And there's a lot of carbon deposits on the valves themselves. Other than that, it looks really good. So this needs to be disassembled, the valves cleaned up, make sure none of them are bent, and cleaned up, put back together, new valve seals. So it was leaking past the rings plus the valve seals. There is none on the intake, which is common. Intake looks pretty good. You're not going to be able to see down in there, but it's really clean. The exhaust valve sees a lot more heat and everything, so it's usually the one that fails. They're not. Oh, I forgot to mention, I also went ahead and rebuilt the carb. Took it all apart, cleaned it, bought a carb kit. Some of the pieces didn't necessarily work. I kept the original jets, just cleaned them out really good. Went ahead and put an air filter pod on it, replaced the boot. I've got the old boot somewhere. I'll show you in a second. But, yeah. That's what the boat should look like. One solid, well, it's two metal piece sleeves with a rubber coating all the way around. You know, keeps it together. The other one does not look like this. Keep this in mind. Okay, here's the old boot. That's why I was having so many idle problems and the throttle just running off with me, run away. But every time it would backfire, it would do that. This was still on the engine, this was still on the carburetor. So every time you saw me in that video, I was grabbing the carburetor and pushing it back on. But yeah, there's not much there. This is original Yamaha piece, it's stamped. It looks like, I guess it cracked or failed, and they just cut it in half and what looks to be radiator tube. The other half's down in it. And then they silicone or JB weld this side. Give me a second, I'll see if I can't break this apart. That feels like JB weld to me. It didn't stick very well. Maybe liquid steel. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm just pulling it apart. Okay. Sorry about that. Go ahead and see about finish popping this off. Maybe we can get this to separate. Because this side wasn't even held on here very well. Oh, I say that. Or either that or it's just pushed on there really tight. Well, I don't seem to be able to get it off. Ah, damn. Just stuck myself with the pick. Careful of this stuff, guys. Oh, looks like they put some JB Weld or something under it when they did it. And then slid it on. There's something up under it. And yeah, I'm bleeding. Of course I am. Yeah, I got myself good. Not the first time. Won't be the last. Oh, it might be RTV. I don't know what it is. I mean, I've seen some rigged up stuff, but this one's a first. There we go. There's the other half. And what looks like, judging from where the part number is an exhaust hose. But these are supposed to be two pieces like this, wrapped in rubber. And I guess it failed and they were too cheap to buy one, or didn't have access to one, or God only knows. So, but somebody had obviously been in it before, because I'll show you again. Here's your here's the engine. Here's your top end, or the piston. This should be the exhaust, or the head gasket. It is smothered in ATV. See all that right there? That's ATV silicone. Should not be there. And that old ring seal looks like it's don't have to be replaced. You should get these things in the rebuild kit, if not a top end seal kit, which is like 20 bucks. The cheaper ones, somewhere around 40 for the more expensive brand. Depends on what you want to go with. I've used both. I've had the same success with both. So, yeah, the 350 needs a top end.